only a transition to a different sphere of consciousness. Carol Ann is not like those she's with. She is a living presence in their spiritual earthbound plane.
Hello and welcome to episode 27 of the Talking to the Dead podcast. So this week, as in the previous 2 or 3 weeks, I've had very strong dreams the night before, so last night, and I'm pretty sure that Miriam is going to come through and talk to me a little bit more about either next stages or other things that happen to us after we've finished our past life and our analysis of our past life. I find that really fascinating. But before we do that, I just wanted to again have a quick shout out to a couple of my regular listeners who sent me some questions. I understand from Joe, who I answered his questions a few weeks ago, that quite a lot I got right in my answers to him, and some of it didn't make any sense at all. So I feel that's probably pretty normal when these things happen. But he didn't go into any great specifics about what aspects of it seemed to make sense to him. And also I wanted to have a quick shout out to Rebecca, who came back to me with a couple more questions about ancient deities and fairies and all these ancient Greek gods, I suppose, and if I could ask Titan about those and how do they relate to everything. So I will do that first of all. So first of all, I'm going to ask if Titan can come through. So I'll be back in a few moments, and let's see what happens there. And after that, I very much want to get Miriam back, because I think she can help me with those other questions as we move forward through the various levels. Okay, so Titan is here. And Titan, thank you for coming again. So you know the questions that Rebecca wants an answer to. Titan is saying that we've had a previous discussion about these types of things, but she's very happy to give me some further information. The power, she says, that's given to the consciousness when enough people focus on it is something that is truly extraordinary. And in ancient times, a lot of people would have believed in the ancient gods and the ancient deities, demigods. She's saying that not a lot of people do anymore, so the power is not there. There is not enough consciousness being injected into any form of, she's saying, any type of thought form or entity. So it's really of not a lot of consequence except to a very minority amount of people. She's saying that she's mentioned also before that the power that could be put into a figure such as Hitler that could end up representing the feelings of a huge amount of people. She's actually saying she wants to talk about Hitler again, because Hitler is a very good example of a modern person who she is saying seemed to have had a very understandable feeling after the war, after the First World War, where his country, Germany, had tremendous economic and social problems, and largely they were of their own making, but equally they were of the other victorious powers imposing various restrictions and taking away a lot of freedoms, land, money, and everything else. And this made the people generally very angry. And Hitler managed to get his power, his tremendous strength of power, and saying that almost people said it was almost hypnotic in terms of the way that he could mesmerize people. That's interesting. I mean, I like that word, mesmerize. That sounds very much like the old witches and old wizards, you know. And as I'm saying that, Titan is saying, yes, this is the point, is that if you like, old witches and wizards would get their power also by tapping into consciousness and tapping into the will to make things happen, and using through tremendous amounts of symbolism and certain structures of words and sounds, they could draw on massive forces of consciousness and turn those things into something that was real and manifest. And great leaders can achieve the same. And Adolf Hitler, for all the right and the wrong things that were done in the Second World War, he represented one of the very powerful figures who was turned into an embodiment of what the mass amount of German people at that particular time were feeling, and the anger they had towards, obviously, she's saying, obviously one ethnic race. She's giving me this word technicolor. So what's technicolor about, Titan? She's saying technicolor is a very interesting concept because it's a type of film that was developed, she says, a long time ago, probably in your 1920s, and it was made up of three distinct types of film that were put together, and one was red, I think one was blue, and one was green, and they were put together and shot. They were shot simultaneously, and then they were projected simultaneously, and you ended up getting one of the first color images. She's mentioning that because that illustrates very well the concept of the power that can be invested in an object, and if you like, a picture, by different colors coming in together and forming one coherent color. And she wants to mention that, and that is really what has happened with deities, and that's what happened with a lot of religious figures. And yeah, she's mentioning, for the sake of my listener, if you want to talk about fairies and all the different deities of fairies, all of these are different colors, and all these colors get put into one and become a clearly visible image, a life force of its own, by the power that's being invested in that life force, by all the thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people who worship that. It's that same energy that can be found when somebody goes to a concert. And yes, I had that feeling myself the other day, because I was talking to another one of my correspondents who is a professional musician. The power that must be coming from the audience, the energy that is manifest, the conscious energy that is being projected onto the person on stage. I've heard that said, yes, it's an amazing feeling, a tremendous amount of energy. And yes, I can see now really very clearly. And Titan is saying yes, and this is where it has all come from. And over the years, she's saying various deities have just gone out of fashion, and people don't think about it anymore, and the energy goes and they dissipate. And he said that's what ultimately happens to all spiritual beings that have a place on earth. They're only there for as long as people are actually wanting them to be there. She says there's an important point here that sometimes people forget. For many hundreds of years, people would erect gravestones and memorials to the dead. And that was, if you like, to help people overcome the grief, but also to enable the person who had died to move away from his earth realm and move in his spiritual realms. She's mentioning the Egyptians and the ancient Egyptians, who she said took this a whole step further by giving the dead everything that they might need in an afterlife, physically in their burial chambers. She's mentioning that it's important to mention here that we are now, she's saying in our terms, in April 2024, and there aren't people now really who put any energy into thinking about all of these old deities and these old things because they're not relevant to us. But it's the same, she says, about people who've died. You know, the nature of human existence is for at the most 80 or 90 years. And as the grandchildren, with the children and the grandchildren pass on as well, you know, in 200 years, unless the person has left an extremely famous body of work in some way, nobody will ever remember them again. They've been forgotten. At that point, there is no point, Titan is saying, there is no point. The entity that is part of the person that was living that earth life has really no purpose in your time to come back and have anything to do with the earth or relatives or family, because there is no sense of connection anymore. Okay, that makes perfect sense. All right, well, thank you, Titan. I'm just going to see if I can't ask Miriam to come through, so give me a few moments. Hi, Miriam, and Miriam is here. She's immediately saying to me, before we go any further, she thinks, listening to the last conversation and also the previous conversation, she feels that it's really important to say the following. She feels that I am struggling with the understanding, the concept of there being no time in the dimensions that she's in. And she wants to explain as easily as she can how time happens in the dimension that she's in. She says that because the dimensions that she's working in are so closely aligned to what's happening in our Earth life, or indeed in other planetary civilizations, it's very important that she and everybody else in that dimension has an ability to operate within the time constraints that we all take for granted, normal linear time. That takes a lot of effort because they are simultaneously aware that there is no time and that everything has happened, is happening, and will happen simultaneously. So every conversation, every help, everything that somebody is doing at that level, they can see the end result of it from the beginning of Earth's history to the end of Earth's history. And it's a particular focus that is required in order to pinpoint the point of Earth history that they make their entrance and their help. She says that it is a hard concept to explain to someone who lives in a linear time, but where she is, it doesn't experience that, but comes in in a linear moment in order to make contact with me and to explain things as if they are happening. But she says, I am using the wrong words. This isn't a progression. This isn't a phase. This is not a next thing. There is no next. There is just simultaneous. And any sense of progression that she's giving me, or anyone in her spiritual realm is giving anyone, is just because it's being interpreted by me, because that's how I expect things to be. Things to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a progression through. But that is not how things are. But there's no way that she can communicate to me unless she explains things in that way, because we cannot begin to comprehend what it's like to be able to see everything simultaneously. Miriam is using this word, two words, infinite time. She's saying infinite time. This is the best way to explain it. Time is completely infinite. And for that reason, it's impossible for us to get our minds around it because we don't understand infinity. Infinity is a concept that she's saying to me that you can't begin to understand unless you're where she is. And if you see time as infinite, you will understand that since she can move effortlessly, if you want to see it in terms of a journey, from the beginning of time to the end of time, she can do that. But there is no end of time, and there is no beginning of time. So she's saying, I'm sorry, but that's the best I can do for you. You really have to get that message across, because when people are listening to the podcast, she says, they may feel that you're talking to me now and I'm explaining to you what happens next. But that's not the case. I am just aligning myself to you and passing you information in a way that you can understand in a linear way. But to me, it's already happened, and everything has happened. And I can see everything that will ever happen has happened or is happening everywhere. And it's an ability that everyone will have as soon as they move to higher spiritual levels. Well, so I have a question, Miriam. So if things are not happening in a linear way, and I'm having a conversation with you or another person, another spirit, I'm asking them about what they're doing, that's nonsense as well then, isn't it? Miriam said, yes. I mean, you're not speaking to a spirit who is able to tell you what she is doing or what she'll be doing next. All that is happening is that at that dimension, and it's only certain guides and certain spirits, and the ones who are very closely aligned to physical planets, wherever they may be, that have that ability or even that desire, she says, to put all that concentration in order to focus on a particular timeline. And that timeline is is a communication that is happening in the way that we understand linear time. But the person, or me, she is saying, I am not in that timeline. I see everything. And I'm just, if you like, picking out something that you would be able to understand that would relate to the time that you're in. She says she also wants to say something. It's very important that people also understand that when somebody that you know in your time has died and they have moved to other realms, you cannot see the terms of time that since they have died as being any indicator as to what level that their soul is existing in. Somebody who has died in your time, who might have died a year ago, in the terms of where they are, that is totally irrelevant, because they could be thousands of your years behind you, ahead of you, or they could be living in simultaneous lives or doing simultaneous activities in thousands of other realities. So it's impossible for you to say that somebody or a relative that has died recently is able to communicate with you as if they had just died recently, because they haven't. They could have died thousands of years in either direction away from you. And what you're getting in contact with, and she says that I know you've heard this before, is an aspect of that entity's consciousness that is like a chapter in a book, which is that particular chapter which was their life at that particular time, that relates to the person who is thinking of them or wants that information. Miriam is saying that for the rest of this discussion, she will talk about things in terms of linear time, because that is obviously how we can understand things. But after a soul has had its chance to do an analysis, a post-analysis of the life, has had a chance to go through the various possibilities that could have occurred in that life and learned all the lessons that are required, that soul, in your terms, is ready for a next stage. But equally, in my terms, that soul has done that before. And she's saying equally, in my realm, that soul has not even had that life yet. Oh, crikey, this is probably going to do my head in, but I think I get what you're saying. So I have to be very careful too. I understand that. I shouldn't just accept that or expect that everything's happening in a particular way as they do in our planetary way. These things are happening in a completely different way, and I'm just grabbing snapshots, I suppose, of information. Miriam is now saying the purpose of everything. She says this is really where she wishes to talk. She says that it's very hard again for us to get this conception as to what is the purpose of everything. To move through an earth life, to move through various zones of analysis, of change, of experimentation. It's very easy to say to someone who is listening to this, what is the purpose of it all? She's saying it's been said many times, and not just through me, that human existence, or for that matter, any form of existence on any planet at our vibrational level, is very much like a schoolroom. We're here in a schoolroom. We are learning things. We are here to learn and experiment and to learn the lessons, to take those lessons away from this particular experience in order to make us get closer to the center, she's saying. And the center, if you like, is the ultimate aim for all existence. And she says at that center, there is a complete freedom from all the feelings of lust or ego or jealousy, all the what are called commonly deadly sins, all the experiences that a human may experience, but also, she's saying, experiences that other entities have who live in different dimensions, but not even physical lives. They all have experiences and learnings as well that they take forward with them. But the overall purpose of it all is to get completely and utterly aligned to the center. And the center is the best description that she could give me of the center. And she said, I'm sorry to use these words, but you could call it a God. That is, if you like, a tremendous architect or creator of everything. But it isn't a person. It is. She's saying it's a conglomeration. It's a huge hive of energy. It is everything that has ever existed, every soul that has ever been and ever will be. And right at the center of that is this place of complete peace, complete love, complete understanding. And that is, if you like, she's saying, and be careful what I'm saying, I'll be careful what I'm saying, but if you like, that is what everyone is striving towards. This is where we're going. This is the purpose of everything, is for us to return to that point. Because once we've returned to that point, we are in the middle with everything else surrounding us, and we can then choose to interfere, she says, or to join in, or to learn, or to do other things from a position of total unity. Things are finished, things are starting. We can learn to create, we can learn to start, we can learn to make new souls, she's saying. We can build worlds. We can build environments. We can participate in expanding the knowledge to be learned. At the center, she's saying, we are no longer limited by anything. Anything is possible. We can do anything. We can be anything. We can learn anything. We know everything simultaneously. But in terms of your linear movement through time, that takes almost an endless amount of time. But that's what it's all about. And at the moment, we're talking in your terms of linear time, and we're saying that you have recently finished your life, you've gone through the process of analysis. So we'll take you at that point where you're at the point of choosing what to do next. And she said, this is the final element that she's involved in before she says, I really will have to pass you on to someone else, because my limit and where I'm enjoying my time at the moment is helping you decide what to do next after you've had your life. She's saying this is not a solitary process. This is not a process where you would feel alone and you don't know what to do. He said, there's so many people, so many entities there that can guide you, but you also know in your heart from all the processes that you've been through, all the lives that you've had at that point. Although she's saying that an entity that is living a human life is actually quite a young soul. It's not something that older souls will get involved in. So the fact that you're living a human life right now will indicate that you are quite a young soul. And she says all the talk about people being old souls is not right, because there's no need for an old soul to be involved in a human life unless there's some particular purpose for it. So when you're now in the situation that you have finished and you've closed out everything that you could learn from your previous existence, it's time, and it's a wonderful time. It's a time of celebration to think about what you should do next and how you could learn more. And there will be a lot of questions that you will have from your past life, a lot of discussions that you'll have with people or entities that you've had past lives with, and decisions will be made as to what you might want to do as a group or what you might want to do individually next in order to continue your development. She's saying it's as simple as that. Now, you might decide that you don't want to have another life for a while. You might decide that you've had enough of having a life, because lives are very hard work. And you might wish to take, in terms of your linear understanding, a few years off and do something completely different. That, again, she says, is not something that she's going to discuss with me, because she's not really equipped to do that. But what she can say is, if you have finished that particular process and you have decided that you wish to have another life, for whatever reason, and all the various guides and master guides who have assisted you understanding all your previous lives before, will help you make a decision as to what life you should lead next. At that particular moment, she wants to also tell me that you don't have to have a life on our Earth level. You could then decide to move to completely different galaxies and have an experience on a completely different planet, or you could have non-physical lives if you wish to, or you just do nothing and you can just retreat to a place that you have created before where you feel comfortable. And you and people that you have been in previous lives with who are in the same situation and have that ability and that need to have that peace will be with you. And if you like, you can see it as a form of relaxation. Whatever the decisions will be made, those decisions will be helped by people like Miriam like me, and she will guide and help people and assist them in the mechanics of the next choices. She is showing me now like a huge, great big hall, or almost like a stadium. And in that particular stadium, I can see thousands and thousands of not peoples per se, but almost light, maybe specks of light, and many different colors. What is that about, Miriam? She is saying that is her main place of operation. That is where she matches souls to potential lives. And that's where she does most of her work. And, okay, so could you explain a little bit how that process works? She said, I'll try to explain it simply to you. As a soul will move towards this particular area with me, they will feel attracted to particular possibilities that are there. There are many possibilities, possible lives, and those possibilities will be attracted to the soul, and the soul will be attracted to those possibilities. It's a very it's a very normal process. It's not a random process. It's based on what is required in that soul's energy in order for it to be able to be further educated and able to move and learn its lessons. And as you move into this zone, she's saying, and all the other guides that are there with souls will be in that process of assisting in order to decide what to do. She says, for a soul that has decided to have another life, then if that's the decision that is made, she says, I will get very involved and help that person prepare which life they're going to lead and get ready to make that transition. For those who decide to do something different, such as a non-physical life, again, she can help with that. And for those who decide not to do anything at all for a particular while, for whatever reason, she can also assist with that. But she's repeating again the purpose of everything. The purpose of everything is for you to be better equipped, to be able to be ready to move closer to the center. And as you move through lives and you learn your experiences, you are fully formed. And eventually you will come to a place such as this stadium, she says, and you will realize that there is no purpose anymore in reincarnation. There is no purpose anymore because you have learned everything that your soul needs to learn. And at that particular point, she's saying, that is when that soul moves on and can move to another dimension. And that ends, she says, that soul's interest and ability to communicate with earth-type environments or experience that type of thing. But she's saying it's not the end of your communication with the people who are with you on this journey. You never lose that communication. You're always, almost, she says, you're telepathically connected to everyone that you have ever known. And you can see them instantly if you wish to, and communicate with them instantly. So you're never losing all the people that you have had life experience with. It's just at that particular point, not all of them will come to that next level with you. Some of them may be still in the process of going through previous lives for whatever reason. But if you've decided not to, then for a period of time, you will have no contact with them until they have grown out of that life and have decided to do something completely different. But for now, she says that she wants to assume that the soul in question has decided that it doesn't wish to have any form of life again and wishes to move to the next dimensions. And she says, that's where I have to stop. She says, it's been a pleasure, but I can't help you here anymore. But next week, she is sure that another higher dimensional being will come through and explain what is happening next. But she's laughing. She says, don't use that word next, because it's already happened.
I lift my feet off the ground, let gravity take me up as beautiful as it's been, it's time for me to go. I wanna sail away, I wanna feel the weightlessness of my soul. I've gotta go all the way to eternity. I will run all the way to see you. I've gotta go all the way through time and space to find my voice, to see you. And I'll go. Lift my feet off the ground, let gravity take me up. As beautiful as it's been, it's time for me to go. I wanna sail away, I wanna feel the weightlessness of my soul. I've gotta go all the way to eternity. I will run all the way to see you. I've gotta go all the way through time and space to find my voice, to see you. And I'll go. And I'll go. And I'll go. I lift my feet off the ground, let gravity